If you feed your lower self, it develops at the expense of the higher. If, on the other hand, you feed your spiritual being, it grows, and your animal nature shrinks. The lower desire is like a poisonous snake within you. If you give it food, it grows bigger and bigger, and will finally rule over you. Let me tell you a nice little story. An old Cherokee chief was teaching his grandson about life. "A fight is going on inside me," he said to the boy. "It is a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves. One is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, self-doubt, and ego. The other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. This same fight is going on inside you, and inside every other person too." The grandson thought about it for a minute, and then asked his grandfather, "Which wolf will win?" The old chief simply replied, "The one you feed." If you keep the dragon within you in check, and give it less and less of that what it so impetuously demands, you free yourself from it. It will gradually wither away and eventually stop bothering you altogether. Man must be able not only to gaze into the heights, but also to look into the depths of his own nature. The age-old serpent lies ready in the depth of the chalice, and will awaken and stir with any misstep. He fills one with malice, he saps one's strength, and obscures good intentions. Only with great striving can one rid oneself of this ancient companion. Yet a determined person can develop within himself one quality that can resist the stratagems of this monster. With purity of heart, one can sense the borderline that defines the influence of the creature, and sensing this borderline, correct an intended mistake. Later, other danger signs will appear. The most important thing is to abstain from acts of questionable rightfulness. One should develop within oneself this sense of right action, and thus not waken the monster. It is far better to discriminate in one's actions than later regret the deeds. You can, and must, literally starve the dragon within you. People do not want to admit that an evil monster has been born within themselves. It is not possible to remove all the heads of the Hydra with one blow of the sword. It is said that each drop of its blood begets new offspring. Therefore, one must find the way to cause the monster to die of hunger. Remove the monster's nourishment, and it will disappear. Entirely ignore the lower self, which is the one thing it fears. By refusing to give it the substance it requires to live upon, that is, the substance of your own evil thoughts and words, it is rendered powerless. becomes more and more tenuous and disintegrates quickly. Kill it out by overcoming it with good, thus changing its nature. Do not feed and nourish that lower self by yielding recognition of its power over you. If you want to be a great and strong being of spirit, a cosmic giant reaching to heaven, you must not make yourself an earthbound worm by giving in to the poisonous snake within you. Ernst Barlach gave expression to this struggle of man with himself, of the angel with the wolf within us, in his Kiel sculpture, The Warrior of Spirit, the contemporary treatment of the age-old theme of Archangel Michael's fight with the dragon. Instead of struggle, we may also speak of transformation. If you want to overcome the old man, you have to transform into a new man, into Nietzsche's Overman. Put off the old man, which is corrupt according to the deceitful lusts, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and put on the new man, which after God is created, in righteousness and true holiness. In the entire cosmos, the guiding principle is transmutation. The disciple chisels out at pains the higher image of himself from the material that previous evolution has made available to him. How does this transformation take place? You change your being by taking on the attributes of the higher self, the characteristics of the divine, the seeds of which are already planted within you. The crown of completion is within yourself. The lower self can have no appreciation of the higher self until it has attracted and assimilated the attributes of the higher self and incorporated them into its own essence, thus changing the nature of the lower self. That means concretely transform suffering into joy, impurity into purity, weakness into strength, darkness into light, fear into courage, coarseness into subtlety, irritability into serenity, unkindness into love, laziness into activity, physical pleasures into spiritual ones, ignorance into knowledge, and so on. When the desire of the soul for obedience to the divine law has overcome the desire of the body to break that law for the purposes of sense gratification, an entire change has taken place in the lower nature. Your mantra is may only my higher self think within me, speak through me, and act with me. O Christ, thou Son of God, my own eternal self, live thou thy life in me, do thou thy will in me. I will have no will but thine, I will have no self but thee. The magic word, the key to all progress, is self-mastery. Without self-control, nothing is possible. This is especially true of the relationship between the four bodies, the lower perishable personality and the eternal spirit. The goal of evolution is the cosmic order, the divine will, is to apply everywhere, right into the last corner of the universe. In other words, we are to establish the rule of the divine spirit everywhere. Where shall I begin? Where else but with yourself? The first and indispensable step on the spiritual path is you must first establish the rule of the spirit over yourself. All teachings repeat about the burden of the flesh in order to direct attention to the superiority of the spirit. If you wish to grow greater, you must submit your small personal self, your lower nature, to the guidance of the spirit. Mastery is the absolute control of the lower self. Walk in the Spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. I stand on the mount supernal of my spiritual divine self, my heart free from hatred and free from fear, my soul given in service, consecrated to God and mankind. Faith, love, compassion, beauty, wisdom, truth, the light of life eternal, surround and pervade me. How will you assert the rule of the Spirit in the world if you are not even able to establish it over yourself? First, rule yourself sovereignly. Only then may you think of becoming a spirit ruler, a hierarch, and as a member of hierarchy, leading and governing the world and other people. How can we rule cities, nations, planets, rule with God, until we rule ourselves? A youth asked a sage to teach him how to be the ruler of a nation. The sage said, "Willingly, but first you must become ruler of your heart. When you have mastered that kingdom, come to me." What exactly does self-mastery mean? Yourself rules itself, namely the higher rules the lower self. I cannot say clearly enough. We are really speaking about power, about asserting interests, about domination. Are you, your eternal self, a king who sits firmly on his throne and reigns, or a subject who is ruled by someone else? The eternal individuality directs its four perishable tools: the physical body and the bodies of feelings, instincts and thoughts, so that it reaches its goal, and not the horses determine the course. When the horses get their way and bolt, when you are torn to and fro by the feelings and desires of your lower nature, the natural order is turned upside down. One of the horses is always about to break out. It takes a tremendous effort to force them all to follow together only one direction at any time, namely that which you give them. The hands of your spiritual self should be at the helm of your personal nature as surely and persistently as the hand of the captain is never withdrawn from the control of his boat, lest unseen, unlooked for, and unexpected obstacles suddenly appear, and his vessel be rammed, swept out of course by high seas, listed and sunk. Self-control is the first characteristic of the man of the future, the firm basis of his superiority over the old man. The power of your spirit can only develop if you first assert it over the aspirations of your own transient personality. He that ruleth his spirit is better than he that taketh a city. Only the highest self-mastery can prepare a person for the fiery spheres. Power in the world is based upon power over oneself. As long as you are a slave to your lower desires, instincts and passions, there can be no question of mastery. Then the divine remains buried within you and is unable to express itself. The more he indulges his desires, the more control they will have over him. Ah, ye triflers on the great stream, victims of feeling, slaves to emotion, pitifully weak, glorying in the strength you would make yourselves believe yours, while as yet you have only touched upon it as an ideal, grasping at the orb of universal power, while you have not yet gained control over a single quality of human nature. You are a king of the spirit only if you have freed yourself from this bondage. Freedom is the release of the soul from the ancient bondage of the lower self. A master controls all the movements of his body, feelings, instincts, and thoughts. Your dignity is based on your higher divine nature. Your self-respect, your pride depend on your expressing it. Each one respects his own dignity, and each one appraises the pearl of his consciousness. It is unworthy of your eternal spiritual being to subordinate itself to the animal within you. Self-control alone produces self-respect.